Welcome to Holly's Quiet Harbor. Take a deep breath and let your mind begin to rest. Once upon a time, when mornings smelled of warm bread and evenings carried the hush of lamplight, there lived a king whose palace stood beside a great square garden. The soil looked deep and promising. The paths were laid straight and true. Fountains waited like silver shells. And yet, though gardeners labored from dawn to dusk, nothing would grow. No green grass, no roses, no shade from leafy trees. The garden was a picture frame without a picture. The king paced the terrace, counting the paving stones when he was worried, which was often. The people were kind and patient, but he wished to share a place of rest with them, a harbor of fragrance and birdsong, something beautiful to match the goodness he felt inside. One afternoon, as the breeze folded the palace flags and the sky cleared to a benevolent blue, a wise old traveler came to the gate. He had the look of someone who listened more than he spoke. After accepting a cup of water, he said gently, "Your Majesty, your gardeners are diligent, but they do not speak the language of gardens. Find a gardener whose father and grandfather tended living soil, and the earth will answer again." The king was not insulted. He was relieved. "Then we must search," he said. And messengers rode to every village where window boxes were bright and orchards wore crowns of blossom. 40 days later, a whole turning of the moon and then some, there appeared at the palace a quiet gardener, with wind-warmed hands, a patient smile, and a wife who hummed while she worked, as well as a son whose eyes carried the wide light of the sky. "Come," said the king, "and try your hand. What grows here will be yours to share." The family came gladly, though the gardener protested that they were simple folk. The court tailors brushed his old coat, the steward settled his debts, and the palace cats adopted the gardener's son immediately, which everyone knew meant he was a good soul. In a season, one season only, the paths softened with green. Grass rose like a tide. Trees remembered their leaves. Roses rehearsed their perfumes until they found the perfect song. The king laughed like a boy. He sent baskets to every quarter of the city so that people could picnic on the lawns and listen to the fountain's silver tinkling. The gardener's son carried the best fruit to the king each morning, and the prettiest flowers to the princess each afternoon. She was 16, tender-hearted and bright, someone who thanked even the smallest kindness as if it were a treasure. She often touched the petals as if learning a new language. Rose, lily, myrtle, jasmine. And she learned it quickly, for she had a talent for understanding, the way some people have a talent for music or maps. The king, in that practical way parents have, began to consider her future. "My child," he said, "it is time you chose a partner who will cherish you and help care for our people." His prime minister was a son of suitable rank, and the court whispered of alliances and ceremonies and feasts that go on for days. The princess listened, then answered, as gently as a summer rain, "Father, I am grateful for your care, but titles are not the same as tenderness. The person who looks at the world as I do is the gardener's son." Now, kings do not like to be surprised in public, and the king was, for a time, both surprised and silent. He paced his terrace, counted paving stones, and listened to the fountains. He wished neither to break his daughter's heart, nor to ignore the customs that kept the kingdom steady. His counselors suggested a test that would wound no one's dignity. "Send both suitors on a journey of discovery," they said. "Let them see the world, help who they may, and return with what wisdom they can gather. Whoever returns first and worthy shall stand beside your daughter at the altar." The king agreed. To the minister's son, accustomed to court comfort, he gave a tall horse and a purse of gold. To the gardener's son, accustomed to sun and soil, he gave a mild, older horse, whose step was sure, if not swift, and a purse of simple copper. The princess secretly pressed into the gardener's son's hands a small pouch of jewels. "For the poor you will meet," she whispered, "and for the unexpected kindness you must offer yourself." The two young men rode out together, each watched by the same morning sun. On the road that led away from the capital stood a fountain where travelers rested. Near its rim sat an elderly woman in a patch shawl. When the minister's son galloped past, she called, "Good day, traveler." He was thinking of maps and triumphs and gold. He didn't answer. Later came the gardener's son on his steady little horse. "Good day, traveler," said the woman. "And good day to you, mother," he replied, stopping at once. He shared his water, his dates, and a corner of bread. He asked after her health, as he would ask after a garden, warmly, without prying. "I do not need much," she said, "but I need someone to listen." So he did, until her voice grew less weary. "You treat the world as if it might blossom," the woman said at last, her eyes kind and quietly bright. "If you would continue in that way, listen once more. The king of a neighboring land has fallen into a heavy stillness. Not illness that breaks the body, but weariness that dims the spirit. His people grow dim with him. Help him renew his seasons." "Tell me how," said the gardener's son. "Beyond the south gate," she said, "lie 3 hills, one chalk white, one deep red, one charcoal black after rain. On each hill grows an herb of the same color, white for clarity, red for vitality, black for rest. Gather these, dry them gently, and keep each herb's ashes in a small silk bag of matching shade. Then, with the king's permission, prepare a restoring bath, a cauldron, not of fire and peril, but of water, steam, and patience. When the water bubbles like laughter, let the king bathe while you sing the two oldest songs you know. One of morning for the red, one of evening for the black. When he steps out, cast the white like snow upon the steam, and he will be as he was in his springtime, not younger in years, but renewed in spirit. Ask as your reward, she added softly, for a bronze ring kept in his treasury. It is no bauble. It is a covenant with the helpers unseen, who answer when called for just causes and kindly hearts. The gardener's son thanked her, offered to bring her to the next town on his horse, and when she agreed, he lifted her into the saddle. They traveled together as evening folded itself like a shawl around the day. In the next city, the heralds were blowing their long trumpets and calling for anyone who could refresh their king's failing light. The gardener's son asked to be admitted, not as a conqueror of disease, but as a keeper of gardens and baths. The court physicians raised their brows, but the queen, who had seen how candlelight makes even a plain room lovely, felt a thread of hope. "Try," she said. "What harm can there be in warmth, water, and gentle songs?" Wood was brought, not a harsh blaze, but a steady one. The cauldron was filled, not with danger, but with clean water. Steam rose, soft and friendly. The gardener's son added the red herb and sang of morning. Bread and dew and geese on a river. He added the black herb and sang of evening. Lamplight and mother's humming and a prayer that says, "Rest well." The king stepped in, and the weariness stepped out. Lastly, the white herb rose like snow into the steam, and the king breathed as one breathes on a mountaintop at dawn. His eyes brightened, his shoulders settled into their place. The room seemed to remember sunlight. He was not 20 again. No spell should cheat a calendar. But he was wholly himself, and the whole court felt it. "How shall I repay you?" he asked, joy making him generous. "Half my treasure, my daughter's hand, a province by the sea." "Your Majesty," said the gardener's son, "I require none of those, only the bronze ring, which binds those helpers who love honest work to grant what is asked for good purpose." The king hesitated, for he valued the ring, but then nodded. "If a stranger heals me with songs and steam, I must trust his request as well." He placed the ring into the young man's palm. It was plain, with a patina that made it look like a small moon at harvest. The gardener's son found the elder woman, now resting comfortably. He thanked her again and slipped a jewel from the princess's pouch into her hand. Not payment, for wisdom cannot be priced, but gratitude. Then he stepped to the shore and whispered to the ring, "Bring a ship worthy of a hopeful heart, safe, swift, and beautiful enough to delight those who see it pass. Let it be crewed by courteous sailors, with room for gifts to be shared wherever we land." The sea breathed once, and there it was, a vessel with a hull that held sunlight like a bowl, silver masts that sang in the wind, and sails woven like brocade clouds at sunset. The crew raised their hands in greeting, and Saint Nicholas, who minds the safety of sailors, stood smiling at the helm, as if he had always been there. In a far port, the gardener's son met the minister's son once more. Time and choices had changed them. The minister's son had run out of money and enthusiasm together. He was taking work that tired him and seeing only closed doors. The gardener's son greeted him kindly, for kindness does not forget old acquaintances. "Come aboard," he said. "Eat, rest, tell me your story." Pride and relief pulled in different directions on the minister's son's face, but hunger is very persuasive, and kindness even more so. He ate slowly, as if unsure food would continue to arrive. That night, he slept in clean linen, which can heal as much as medicine. In the morning, the gardener's son offered a bargain. Not a brand or a mark, nothing cruel and nothing hidden. "I will send you home," he said, "in a ship strong enough to carry a lesson. My only condition is that you carry it." "What lesson?" the minister's son asked. "That a vessel's grace is in its company, not its polish. You once rode past need without seeing it. So go home in a sturdy boat, with patch sails and a crew of ordinary folk, tired fishermen, cheerful old deckhands, apprentices who speak softly, people who know storms and still sing. Learn their names, share their work, see how a rough deck and a generous heart cross oceans together." The minister's son, with a long look at the shining ship he might have wished for, agreed. The bronze ring, obedient to a good instruction, called up a plain vessel, seaworthy, a little scuffed by previous adventures, with a hold full of salted fish and baskets of oranges to share at each port. The crew waved, made room, and taught their new passenger how to coil rope. By a chain of steady weather and steadier faces, he reached home humbler and wiser. Back at the capital, the king was ready to keep his promise. The first suitor home would wed the princess, if he had shown himself worthy. The minister's son arrived first. He bowed, he told of the voyage, and for the first time in his life, he spoke kindly of people who could not make him powerful. The princess listened from behind a lattice, thoughtful and still. Then a horizon brightened. The golden ship arrived, gliding like morning. The king called the captain ashore and gasped to see that it was the gardener's son, now with a carriage of the sea about him, yet exactly himself. "Be my guest," said the king, delighted, and the city set out lanterns, as if a festival had begun by itself. That evening, there was an honest conversation instead of a contest. The king asked questions that fathers must ask. The young men answered as men should. The minister's son admitted that the captain had once helped him. "He could have embarrassed me," he said. "Instead, he sent me home with a lesson that I'm still learning." The gardener's son bowed in acknowledgement and said only, "He learned quickly." The princess, who listened more than she spoke and understood swiftly when truth was offered, came forward with her father. "My heart," she said, "is steady where it stands." And the king, seeing that the choice was not a whim, but a root, placed her hand in the gardener's son's hand. Bells lilted, people cheered. Bakers carried out sugared rings and tiny flutes of custard. Joy settled into everyday kindness, which is the only joy that lasts. The king found in his new son-in-law not magic tricks, but good counsel. Someone who knew how to water trees, how to ask questions on market days, how to repair a bench, so two tired women could sit a while and laugh together. The princess found in her friend a companion for gardens and long walks and quiet reading. The bronze ring lay forgotten under a cushion more often than not. The helpers unseen do their best work when they are not constantly called. On the edge of the city lived a scholar of difficult arts. He was not wicked, just lonely, in the way that bends people toward odd pursuits. He had heard that a ring in the palace treasury could call winds and shape ships. "If I had it," he thought, "I could accomplish deeds that would make everyone notice me." He caught small red fish to sell in the market, bright as lanterns, and wandered beneath the princess's window. "Red fish," he called, "red fish for a ring." A curious servant laughed. "Who trades fish for a ring?" "One who misses his place in the world," the scholar said under his breath. The princess, hearing only the peddler's cheerful cry and wanting to give him joy, said, "Search the cushions. There is a trinket in there somewhere." The servant found the bronze ring, no more luminous than any other, and exchanged it for the basket of flickering scarlet. The scholar went home astonished at his luck. He set the ring on velvet, lit candles on the other side, and whispered, "Bring me a ship finer than any other." The ring obeyed his words, but not his wisdom. The ship took on his fretfulness and showed it. A dark hull, tangled ropes, a cargo of creatures that did not fit together, restless cats who only wanted homes and gentle hands, jars of herbs with no labels, and instruments whose music nobody had taught him to play. At sea, the gardener's son felt the tilt. Helpers unseen are like birds. They fly toward steady hearts. He sensed that someone had called the ring away. "Then its great work," he said, "is to find its way back by a better lesson." The sea scattered islands like jewels on a cloth, and the golden ship visited many, leaving books for small schools, rope for small boats, and sugar for the tea that marks friendship in every language. On a green island, tufted with palms, the ship met a colony of cats. Harbor cats, roof cats, kitchen cats, who had followed ships and stayed, hoping for milk and music. The crew kindly gave both. Further on lay an island where the sole citizens were mice, courteous, organized, and alarmed by cats. The captain asked that the cats be kept aboard. Kindness is not kindness if it forgets someone. The mice approached in a small deputation. A blind archivist who remembered all maps. A swift runner who had lost the tip of one ear to a gull's beak. And a wise, slightly limping navigator who could tell the weather by how stones felt at dusk. "We beg you," squeaked the archivist, "do not let your cats ashore. Our families are clever, but not clever enough to outrun hunger." "We will keep them aboard," said the captain at once, "if you will help us with a puzzle." A small bronze ring, easy to overlook, has gone astray. We do not wish to harm the one who took it. We wish only to restore balance. The mice held a parliament under the shade of a conch shell. Their queen, a dapper, whisker-grayed leader, tapped the shell with a coral wand. "All creatures wish to be noticed," she said. "If the ring has gone wandering, it is with someone who wants to be seen." She sent scouts to the nearest ports, and after a day and a night, they returned. "A scholar keeps a ring on velvet and speaks to it by candlelight. He is neither cruel nor calm. He is simply lonely." "Then we must be swift and gentle," said the queen. She sent the archivist, the swift runner, and the navigator across the narrow strait in a walnut shell boat. At the scholar's window, they waited until he fell asleep over his books. The ring nestled in his palm, like a worry he would not let go. The swift runner darted in, but her foot brushed a bell. The scholar stirred. The navigator, quick with ideas, tipped a tiny bottle of peppermint oil onto a feather and tickled the scholar's nose. He sneezed. 1, 2, 3. His fingers opened, and the archivist guided the ring into the runner's paws. They left a note, because kindness is courageous and courteous. "Dear Sir, this ring belongs to a work larger than one heart alone can carry. If you wish to be seen, do a deed that lets others shine. Come to the harbor at dawn. There is a place for you." They pushed off into moonlight. Halfway across, they began to argue. Mice do as people do, about who deserved credit. The boat rocked. The ring slipped. It fell with a tiny plunk. Silence. 3 small hearts broke at once. "Search gently," said the archivist, wiping her glasses. They did. The swift runner's whiskers brushed a shell. Inside the shell, to their amazement, lay a sleeping fish with a ring like a crown on its head. "Forgive us," whispered the navigator. The fish yielded the ring as one yields a treasure that was never truly his. At the harbor, the cats watched from the rail, tails respectfully wrapped around their paws, while the mice returned the ring to the captain with ceremony. "You kept your promise," said the queen, "and so did we." The bronze ring rested again in the captain's palm. He did not clutch it, he only thanked it, as one thanks a tool that has worked hard. "Bring us home," he said quietly, "in the ship that has become our friend." The golden vessel gathered herself like a dancer. Sails billowed. The crew sang a tune the mice had taught them, light and skipping. Along the way, they stopped once more at the scholar's window. He was waiting, as the note had asked him to do, with a basket of small red fish and a look of apology that needed no words. "Come," said the captain. "We have schools to visit, lamps to fix, and a festival to prepare. You know the names of stars. Teach them to children who sleep on rooftops." The scholar climbed aboard, surprised by how easy it is to be useful when you stop trying to be impressive. The cats adopted him at once. It is their way to find the one who needs company. At the palace, the princess looked up from a tray of seedlings just as the ship's pennants appeared. She ran, not as a princess, but as a person who has found what she did not say aloud she was missing: her friend. They embraced the way trees would if trees could move. The king, wiser than when our story began, listened as the captain told the whole journey, not as a list of triumphs, but as a string of kindnesses. A woman by a fountain, stream and song. A voyage for learning, a plain boat with a sturdy crew. A scholar who thought he needed a talisman when he really needed a task. The scholar bowed deeply and offered the basket of little red fish, now glittering like lanterns of apology. "I thought power would make me visible," he said. "It turns out that usefulness does." The princess smiled and asked if he would catalog the palace library's old star charts. He said he would do so with his whole heart. As for the bronze ring, it did not go back under a cushion. Instead, the king placed it, not high where only he could reach it, but in a small glass box on a table in the garden, where all could see. A plaque beneath it read, "This ring answers only when the request will help many. Before you call it, ask, have I been brave and kind as I can be without it?" And so it was used rarely. Once to call fresh water to a village after a dry year. Once to bring a midwife across a flooded river. Once to mend a bridge with timbers that did not rot. Each time, the helpers unseen came gladly, because nothing delights them more than doing what people cannot do alone. When it came time to celebrate the princess and the gardener's son properly, the city did not try to outshine the golden ship. Instead, it chose to welcome. Bakers set out long tables in the square and wrote the names of farmers on sugar plaques. The cats paraded with ribbons and bells. The mice watched from a garlanded balcony with little opera glasses. The scholars hung star charts between trees so children could walk beneath constellations like doorways. The gardeners laid paths of thyme and clover that smelled like laughter when stepped upon. There were speeches, but they were short. There were blessings, but they were simple. May your home be a harbor. May your table be a long one. May your quarrels be brief and your forgiveness quick. The princess and her friend, now her husband, walked the garden's length at dusk and touched the leaves that had once refused to grow. The trees murmured, the fountains agreed, the grass said nothing, which is how grass says yes. In the years that followed, the king retired from counting paving stones to counting grandchildren. The princess and her husband worked not only in palaces, but also at market stalls and in schoolyards, listening for small problems before they grew thorny. The scholar of difficult arts became the city's most beloved teacher of easy kindnesses. How to make tea for visitors, how to carry a ladder together, how to read the sky for weather, and the faces of neighbors for need. And the garden? It kept its promises. In winter, it told stories in shapes of trunk and branch. In spring, it flung open windows of blossom. In summer, it offered shade and sweet water. In autumn, it taught everyone to let go with grace. The bronze ring slept most days, content as tools are when they know they are not masters. If you visit the garden now, if you follow the sound of a fountain tinkling and the hush of leaves having a conversation, you might see, beneath a little plaque, a simple ring glowing like a small copper sun. And you might read the line the princess added in her own hand. Power is loud. Love is steady. We choose steady. And that, dear listener, is the gentlest truth hidden in the tale of the bronze ring.